And the idea that water from all sources must be under government control is a terrible thing. That important information on what was going on with water the plan to turn water into a commercial product. So it becomes part of your balance sheet. Water is supposed to be free for everybody. And anyone that's trying to control water in the guise that they want to make it available to everybody by selling it is already excluding some people. Because you already know that definitely there are those who will not be able to afford it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Irrespective of the cost. And the idea that water from all sources must be under government control is a terrible thing. Because we can get water from the air. Now, since we can get water from the air and the law says or states that water from all sources, that includes the air.
Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
That means that you are disallowed from getting water from the air. You can get it from the ground. You can get it from the air. You can get it from the rain. You can. So what does that mean? Creating laws that are not good for people is tyranny. That's tyranny. The trouble is, all such evil laws often come from the same group of people connected to the WEF, Ford Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, and their associated organizations. These they have done for years because of their ideology of eugenics. So when they talk about water or anything they talk about, it's got nothing to do with the subject matter. But population control, their ideology of creating a new world of their kind for their own control. They just want the world to be what they have chosen for it to be, but they can't have it their way. And for their information, the Bible has been proven to be the Word of God, whether or not they believe it. The Bible is true. And the Bible gives a timeline for the world from beginning to end. And tells us about everything that we need to know about man's life on earth, his times and seasons. the wisest thing for men to do is to discover their purpose and to fulfill it. To know your purpose is also to know your timing. Jesus knew his purpose. Jesus knew his timing. When his time was not yet, he knew it and said that much. So the corruption of our water, the corruption of our food, there are diseases and sicknesses today that are rich people's sickness, because they are the ones that have money to buy the kind of things that have been poisoned, and they don't know it. And I want to reiterate this to you. You're listening now. You that are in positions of power and authority, there's a lot you don't know. There's a lot you don't know. There's a lot that's shielded away from you and that you are shielded from. For example, all of those nicely bottled water that you get, some of you even import yours. You import specially. Congratulations. But I say this to you in your own interest. Find out what it contains. Does it contain fluoride? If it does, you've been drinking poison. I told you before about the toothpaste that you use. They even advertise with fluoride. They make your teeth whiter and stronger. It's a lie. It's all poison. One of the biggest causes of cancer is fluoride. You wonder why there's so much cancer today than ever before? So if they don't get you with the vaccine, they get you with the fluoride. Don't believe them. They tell you that it's the little amount of natural fluoride that's found in the soil that gets into the water, and there's little they can do about it. It's not true. This is a deliberate action by those responsible for this to gradually poison the water and give you what's called slow death. It's part of the population control agenda. What I'm telling you is not conspiracy theory. But I told you before that you better understand that conspiracy theory itself is not a bad thing. Those who don't want you to theorize on conspiracy are the very perpetrators and conspirators of evil. They don't want you to be intelligent enough to ask questions. They don't want you to reason. They don't want you to analyze information. Do what we say. That's all. That's all they want you to do. Meanwhile, in all investigations by police and intelligence community, they all work with conspiracy theory.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You must have it. You must be able to question and make assumptions. But then when you theorize and analyze, make such questions or ask such questions, they say you're dangerous. Whatever they think about this, I'm telling you the truth, because what I'm saying to you is scientific. They may not always agree, or they don't want to agree. Those who don't agree is because they don't want to study the subject, or else they've been captured by the same evil minds. I'm going to show you a documentary in a moment. I warned you about vaccines. And the reason I'll keep telling you about it is because the perpetrators continue to double down on the need for vaccines, because that's where they put all their hope of what they were going to do. And then they're vaccinating the cows and the chickens, hoping that somehow you will get the mRNA vaccine through the cows and the chickens. This is really bad. They're reducing your options more and more. She banned it. She just banned Bill Gates' satanic meat. She banned it from their country. Not from chicken. So you say you want chicken, they say, okay, there's BG chicken from the lab, special meat. So first, I'm going to show you this documentary on reports comparing vaccinated children to unvaccinated children. And I told you, no vaccine was ever good. You're going to hear from this documentary some things I already told you. They're amazing. Amazing. That these doctors and scientists knew these things were there. I'm glad I told you anyway, but watch this. There is no scientific evidence in the world that vaccines ever worked.
10% of Medicaid recipients in Florida, 10%, had no Medicaid visits for vaccines. The parents probably opted out of taking vaccines. Those were the healthiest children.
From 2020, all these babies that, never had all these shots because of COVID, so they didn't have shots, and so there's no SIDS, and now the babies' developmental milestones are way ahead of their brothers and sisters, and, so they're the pandemic super babies, which just means, oh, wait, this is a normal baby.
There was a remarkable difference between the health, the chronic health, and the acute health of the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated.
The unvaccinated kids we have in our practice are the healthiest. They never get sick. They come in once a year for a school physical.
In recent times, the world has seen a gradual increased number of parents who have made the choice not to vaccinate their children. Many of them have proven that their kids are healthy, thriving, and proof that families should question the idea of vaccination.
Vaccine is based on the premise that you help a healthy person prevent a disease. by introducing the disease into him. How in the world did the people ever fall for such foolishness?
You start to see families that have both vaccinated and unvaccinated. That's one of the things that woke me up, was seeing unvaccinated kids. I've never seen any health like this. And I never even dreamed that I could have been that healthy, though I remember going through pediatrics and thinking, gosh, everybody's so sick. Like, what would happen if we didn't have these antibiotics? People would be dying so much. And it wasn't until Roman and I started doing our research to write Dissolving Illusions that all became clear to me, that what I thought about what would happen to those kids if they didn't have antibiotics wouldn't actually happen, because if they hadn't had the vaccines that they had, they wouldn't have needed all the antibiotics that they had. And I just wish that all parents could see and hear what unvaccinated families have to say about the health that they're able to enjoy. That's one of the things that woke me up, was seeing unvaccinated kids. I've never seen any health like this.
You have no vaccine at all? Never. I'm in my 60s. I've never been vaccinated for anything. Anything at all? No, and then I had 2 kids that are now 28 and 30, and they were never vaccinated.
This is Palmer, he's 6. He's been sick maybe 4 days his entire life.
Never had any mumps, measles, chickenpox, eczema, asthma, ear infection, ADD, ADHD,
No, ma'am.
autism, ADD, ADHD, peanut allergy. Does he have eczema, allergy, ear infection?
Just big, strong muscles.
Oh.
And a really smart brain.
Many parents look at this landscape and asked, what changed? Among the findings, one grows louder every year. The belief that vaccines are harming children's health. For many families, the belief begins with a personal story. A moment of suspicion becomes a moment of reality.
If you're going to introduce the disease into a healthy person, that means you're getting him sick.
So you have 4 children.
I do.
And 2 are vaccinated and 2 are not.
Yes.
Right, let's go back to the beginning and talk about the first child that you had. Talk us through that.
So my oldest, Billy, we did all the vaccines with her. I didn't know any different. After she got her second set of vaccines, she broke out. The next day she broke out in hives, and I took her right away back in, and they said it was eczema. And they said, change your soaps, use Dove soap and all this. So I tried it, didn't work. So it lasted about a week and it went away. And then we did her next round and same thing happened. And then she got, all of a sudden had a double ear infection, a bad fever. The hives came back. So I switched over to goat milk soap and lotions and thought it was, stuff that was in the soaps and stuff. And then it wouldn't go away. So I took her back in and they told me it was my breast milk. So I changed my diet up and she started having some little problems, and then after one set of her shots, her hands, I don't know if they can see that, her hands swelled up.
How old is she now? About 1?
She was about almost a year old, yeah. And her little hands swelled up so tight that she couldn't open her hands up all the way, and it felt like her skin was gonna rip. And they were bright red, so I took her in emergency room. Yeah, and again, they were just telling me it's eczema. So I was like, that's not eczema. So, and then shortly after, I had my second daughter, and I did her first set of shots at 2 months old, and the next day, I took them both in for shots at the same time. The next day, when she went to the restroom, her diaper was full of blood. So I ran her in the emergency room, me and my husband, and they did a test on her and stuff. They said, oh, again, it's your breast milk. You need to change what you're eating. And then that's when I was like, no, this is not, because nothing has happened up until this day with her. Like, this has to be something else. So I started talking to people, and that's when I started researching and reading all kinds of, anything I can get my hands on. And I was like, no, it's the vaccine. So we quit all vaccines. Like, that was it. And after that, they never had another eczema problem. They never had nothing. Like, it stopped. So then when we had our third daughter, we didn't do anything. We didn't do the vitamin K, we didn't do the eye ointments, we didn't do anything. She's never had a problem.
So same dad?
Same dad. All my, yeah,
okay.
Yeah, my husband.
Same genetic, everything?
Everything.
Environment?
Yep.
And so you've got 2 vaccinated, 2 unvaccinated. Mm-hmm. Which group are happier?
Oh, definitely the unvaccinated.
Vaccination was the smart way of introducing sickness, disease into healthy people.
A significant number of doctors share their experience that children who are not vaccinated are not only safe, but healthier.
The fully unvaccinated kids are always healthier. And in fact, there was a 10-year study done by Dr. Paul Thomas. And of course, they got that study retracted unethically in violation of the COPE guidelines. That 10-year study showed that the kids who got measles were the kids who were vaccinated against measles. The kids who got mumps were the kids who were vaccinated against mumps. The kids who did not get any vaccines did not get any of the diseases.
The number of children in these unvaccinated populations that have never even had an ear infection. I mean, I can't imagine that. My son was a walking ear infection. All we did was toss antibiotics down his throat in order to keep the ear infections at bay. And now you have these children who are unvaccinated, and the significant, large proportion of them have never seen an ear infection. That is just nigh unto incredible.
Across modern childhood, a chorus of new concerns has emerged. Cancers, organ failures, allergies, autism, anxiety, and chronic illnesses.
All those were being vaccinated. They said take vaccine 1, vaccine 2, vaccine 3, 16 vaccines before they're 2 years old. Against this and against that, what happened was they were introducing all kinds of diseases into these children.
As a lifelong doctor, if there was one thing you could change, if there was one institution, policy, practice, thing that you've seen in the industry over your career that you would change, what would it be?
I would dismantle the whole vaccine apparatus. I think for several reasons. I think that they're destroying the health of our children and our country. Do you know what it's like for a family to have an autistic kid who's nonverbal? Their entire lives are altered from that moment forth. I have patients who have vaccine-injured autistic kids who are totally dependent on them, even as adults. They know their kids will never leave the house. They need to be home all the time. Caring for someone like that is so destructive to not only the child's lives, the parents' lives, and there's many, many of them out there. That's just one little snippet of the vaccine.
The more vaccines that the child got, the higher the incidence of all of these disorders. If you overstimulate the immune system with these different powerful adjuvants, it can disrupt that developmental process. And so that would explain why we're seeing this list of 15 to 20 immune-related diseases in the heavily vaccinated children. But with the vaccine, what you're doing is you're stimulating the immune system in a way that you never see with a natural infection. You're causing the immune system to be activated for years, even decades. The immune system is constantly being stimulated by the aluminum, the mercury, the other things that are in the vaccine, and the adjuvants. This aluminum is not removed from the brain like some of these people said. It's stored in the brain, particularly the astrocyte and the microglia, producing constant immune activation that goes on for years and years, decades.
There are injuries by the vaccines. Injuries. Death. And these are all on record.
The younger you are, which means you have a basic natural immune cells and you have very, very good T8 cells. Your lymphocytes, if you have a strong immune system, they go crazy trying to attack the nasty stuff that's in the vaccine. It means they're going to the aorta, they're going to the spleen, they're going to the ovaries, they're going to the brain, and the body is attacking itself. Your children are going to be attacked internally and are being attacked internally by these reactions. But this is not a vaccine. I refuse to call it that anymore. It is an IDI. It's an immune damaging injection. And it's affecting lifespan. It's affecting cancer, latency. It's affecting any number of things, including, of course, the myocarditis. The first 4 or 5 months of children getting the vaccine experimentally showed, sadly, a 5,200% elevation in all causes of mortality in children who got the double vax. And of course, they died quietly in their sleep. They died while playing basketball or soccer. They died of quote-unquote unknown reasons. But the numbers, you can't go against it. If a group of children are 52 times more likely to die compared to the opposite group, and one is vaccinated and one isn't, the rest of the world would like it, I suppose, if the unvaccinated were dying 52 times more often. But it's not the case. It's the opposite. It's the vaccinated children, 10 to 14 years old, that first study proved were, relatively speaking, dropping like flies compared to the non-vaccinated children.
Through them, that passed lots of diseases around the world. There were no measles in the places where they called for measles vaccines until the vaccines came. There was no polio until the vaccines against polio came.
November 18th, 1916 article in the Springfield, Massachusetts Union about a Dr. J.P. Russell, who is opposed to vaccines. In this 1916 article, that these vaccines were, at the time anyways, were being connected to or were causing childhood paralysis or poliomyelitis.
The polio vaccine contained a virus called simian virus 40, SV40. It's one of the most carcinogenic materials that is known to man. In fact, it's used now by scientists around the world to induce tumors in rats and guinea pigs in labs. But it was in that vaccine, 98 million people who got that vaccine in my generation got it, and now you've had this explosion of soft tissue cancers in our generation that kill many, 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 many more people than polio ever did.
From the beginning of vaccines, it's been a fraud. From the very beginning.
As more people hesitated, deception was used as a tool to create fear and promote compliance.
Today's media often tries to cause widespread panic, right? It's all a fear psyop. They terrorize parents with the idea that, oh, your child might get measles, there's an outbreak. And they say, you have to go get vaccinated, otherwise your child might die. But that's all a lie.
In the United States, they made a big deal because I think we hit 2,000 cases this year.
Yeah.
Worldwide, 600,000 cases in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And, in a report from the WHO, just in Europe alone, I think there was 250,000 cases. There were roughly 36 deaths, not a single one they could confirm being due to measles.
I know the data. Unvaccinated children are far, far healthier than others. And then, so what would someone scream at me when I say that? They were like, oh, you want a child to die from measles? I'm like, are you kidding me? You know how many kids die from measles? It's extremely rare.
Every year, millions of babies take their first breath and within hours receive their first immune-destructive vaccine. The questioning of newborn hepatitis B vaccine by doctors and parents reflects the deception surrounding newborn vaccination.
This is the debate over changing the childhood schedule. The hepatitis B vaccine on the schedule is given to newborns. What is the medical, scientific reason and proof for giving a newborn a hepatitis B vaccine if the mom is Hep B negative?
I want to go back to the assertion associated.
What is the medical reason for giving a hepatitis B vaccine to a newborn?
Hepatitis B, 250 micrograms of aluminum for a vaccine your baby does not need. You know how we catch hepatitis B, right, Mike?
It's sexually transmitted, blood transmitted, yeah.
Exactly. So hepatitis B you catch from sex and IV drug use, right? Sharing dirty needles. And I'm thinking, none of the babies in my practice are doing that.
Why are you giving a hepatitis B vaccine to a newborn? If you're vaccinating a child at birth for hepatitis B or anything else, the child doesn't have a functional immune system.
Vaccines cause a range of adverse effects, from developmental delays to chronic illness. Vaccines are detrimental and unnecessary.
It's going to be
of the mighty shall be taken away, and the prey of the terrible be delivered. For I will contend with him who contends with you, and I will save your children. Isaiah 49, verse 25.
Praise God.